Our next inductee began her lacrosse career the way most of us did, annoying the neighbors while spending hours bouncing a ball off the local lacrosse box walls. Her dedication clearly paid off, however, as she became arguably the finest midfielder ever to play for Canada, and on her way to the Hall of Fame. A multi-sport athlete as a youth, she began playing box lacrosse in her hometown of Port Coquitlam at the age of 14. She eventually made her way to Burnaby's Kirby Klipettes of the BC Senior Women's League, and led the team to 3 provincial and 3 national titles between 1978 and 81. She captained all of these league championship teams and was named MVP of the first ever women's national championship tournament in 1978. In 1980, she was introduced to field lacrosse when the Klipettes traveled to Stanford University as a preseason bonding event. The field game was made for her, and she was made for it. And she would go on to have a field lacrosse career that took her across the country and around the world. She was a captain of Canada's first national women's team in 1982, a team that remarkably captured a bronze medal at the first Women's World Cup in England. She would continue with the national team for 15 years, captaining squads at the 1986 and 89 World Cups, and coaching at the 1993 and 97 tournaments. On the domestic front, she captained the Hall of Fame BC provincial team that won 8 consecutive national titles, and after an injury ended her playing career, coached the BC squad to 2 more titles. In 2009, she was presented a certificate from the International Women's Lacrosse Federation in recognition of her contributions to the sport as both a player and a coach. She's still heavily involved in the sport, serving as chair of a committee formed by World Lacrosse to develop box lacrosse for women around the world. She was a gifted player, a winner, and a leader par excellence, and we now welcome her as the first BC woman to enter the hall as a player, Michelle Bowyer.
Hello everyone, and thank you for being here to celebrate with us the Canadian Lacrosse Hall of Fame inductees for 2020 and 2021. Thank you to the Canadian Lacrosse Hall of Fame Board and Selection Committee for bestowing this honor on me, and to all of the people who have made this evening possible. A special thank you to my friends and family who are here with me tonight, and a hearty congratulations to my fellow inductees. My journey in lacrosse started in my early teens when a high school friend suggested we try out for a new box lacrosse team that was starting up in our hometown of Port Coquitlam. I literally fell in love with the game right from the start. Little did I know, but this was just the beginning of decades of involvement in the sport of lacrosse that would lead to my induction into the Canadian Lacrosse Hall of Fame. I can still remember my dad taking me to the sports store in Port Coquitlam to pick out my first box lacrosse stick. He patiently waited while I went through every stick in the store to find just the right one. I always knew by the feel of the stick in my hands whether or not it was the one. My parents both passed away over a decade ago, but I know they're up there somewhere cheering me on just like they always did. Even though box lacrosse is a bit of a rough sport, and I'm certain they were somewhat relieved when I started playing field lacrosse, they always supported me and continue to do so throughout my playing career. Box lacrosse truly became the medicine game for me, as it helped me get through those awkward teen years. I went from being a shy, slightly anxious kid who didn't really fit in, to an extremely competitive, driven, and focused athlete with lofty goals that I set for myself very early on. Throughout most of my playing years in both box and field, I had the great fortune to be coached by Hall of Famer Dave Evans. While I always had the internal drive to want to be the best player I could be, Dave pushed me and my teammates to train harder than we ever had, and was instrumental to our success as lacrosse players. Thank you, Dave, for the endless amount of time you put into every practice, every competition, and every crazy road trip we went on. In 2014, I had the honor to be inducted into the Canadian Lacrosse Hall of Fame in the team category, with the BC Selects women's field lacrosse team. Many of us had experienced success together as the Kirby Klipettes box lacrosse team, and we carried on our winning ways when we started playing field lacrosse. I, along with many of my teammates, went on to play field lacrosse for Canada, and I'm truly thankful for all of the opportunities I've had to compete for my province and my country, and to travel around the world because of it. I attribute much of my success in both box and field to having played and competed with some of the finest women athletes I've ever known. We always practiced as hard as we played and pushed each other to be the best. While I'm being recognized by the Hall of Fame, and it is indeed an honor, many of those women are every bit as deserving as me to be in the Hall. Currently, there are only 3 women in the Canadian Lacrosse Hall of Fame, and it's time for that to change, as there are so many great women players out there, both past and present. I look forward to attending future Hall of Fame events and celebrating the women lacrosse athletes who will follow in our footsteps. Thanks again, everyone.
Ladies and gentlemen, where'd she go? Michelle Bowyer.
Okay, you have to be in this photo. I'll put her in the middle.
I was going to tell a couple of stories about how competitive she really was, but I don't know that that'd go over too well.